France 24's Doug Herbert joins me on the set to talk a bit more about the election in Brazil. And Doug, we just heard Jair Bolsonaro there speak of injustice. Who's he addressing?
His hardcore supporters, the supporters that continue to take to the streets to protest, the staunchest supporters, those who embrace him not only as their champion, but as someone who actually embodies the God-given opposite, diametrical opposite to Lula da Silva. Lula da Silva, a man whom Bolsonaro supporters see as not just a candidate they disagree with on an ideological level and a political level, but someone who is perhaps devil-like, doing pacts with Satan himself, a criminal who is being handed the reins of their country. For them, this is a travesty of everything they believe in. What we didn't hear in those comments when he speaks of injustice and indignation of his supporters, that's, throwing red meat. That's throwing a bone to those supporters. Even if Bolsonaro is standing there in the what's a not concession speech and basically saying, okay, I will follow and respect our Constitution, our Constitution's commandments. And then his chief of staff saying the president has authorized the transition to a new administration. Even while he says that, he's throwing that bone to his supporters saying, stay out there, stay keen, guys, because you and I all both know, it's, barely coded language here. You and I both know that I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. I will be back. This is merely a temporary sidelining as these criminal elements take power. I will be back. This is already shaping up. We're already seeing the contours of not just a bitterly divided Brazil over the next few years, but a Brazil that's already laying the groundwork. Its defeated rival, who didn't mention Lula's name in any of his remarks, didn't mention that, okay, the election was free and fair. I lost. We have to accept it. None of that. We are seeing rather the groundwork already being laid for Lula with an image of himself being the improperly, unjustifiably sidelined candidate, probably believing he actually won, but is standing aside for the moment with the eye on coming back. There will be another contest, you can almost bet on it, between Lula and between Bolsonaro in 2026, just as we'll probably be seeing Biden and Trump again being replayed, a rematch in 2024.
And it's interesting you mentioned Trump. There have been lots of comparisons between Bolsonaro and Trump in the past. Bolsonaro's been called the Trump of the tropics.
The tropical Trump.
Exactly. There were parallels as well in this speech.
Not just parallels, it was almost verbatim, exactly what Trump said. Look, before I come in, I want our viewers to actually listen to, because I re-listened to these remarks this morning, and it's amazing. It's eerie how much they parallel. Donald Trump speaking on January 7th, 2021, significant, the day after the Capitol insurrection, and this is what he said. This is 2 months after Americans voted, I will note, in November 2020, 2 months after.
Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation.
A new administration will now be taking power. I mean, what don't we hear there? As the emissions speak louder than words, it's deafening, these emissions. As with Bolsonaro, no mention by name of the actual president-elect. In Donald Trump's case, Joe Biden, no mention of his name. Bolsonaro's case, no mention of Lula's name. No mention of the fact that I lost in a free and fair election, which would have perhaps prevented a lot of the mounting violence in what we saw subsequently after Biden did finally take office. Violence stoked by Trump among his supporters. What is incredible here is not just the parallels, but the fact that these are both men who spent their entire campaigns and after the election denying, questioning the reliability, the legitimacy of the electoral system itself, saying it was the victim of vote rigging, rife with fraud, planting the seeds among their supporters that this was not a legitimate election and that their loss was not legitimate. They are actually the rightful presidents, if only the system were fair. That is the hard message from both of these presidents. Bolsonaro taking a hard message from Donald Trump's playbook. The only difference being perhaps more of Bolsonaro's allies seem to be accepting the results and even having urged Bolsonaro to accept the results. We're still not seeing that among Donald Trump's hardcore supporters in the Republican Party in the United States. They still are buying into a so-called big lie and this myth that the election was stolen by Joe Biden from Donald Trump.
Doug, thanks for that. France 24's Doug Herbert.